The cry didn't echo. It cut, not loud, not wild, just thin, trembling, and soaked in fear. A child's voice, soft, untrained, yet filled with belief, broke through the diner's dull hum. "Daddy, please help her." Time stalled. Forks paused halfway to mouths. Coffee stopped steaming. Words died before forming. And inside a cracked vinyl booth, an exhausted father felt his entire life narrow into one single moment. Marcus Hale wasn't brave by nature. He wasn't trained to fight. He wasn't searching for conflict. He was simply a man who had once knelt beside a tiny bed and promised his daughter that as long as he breathed, she would never face the dark alone. Before this story pulls you deeper, if you believe in kindness, second chances, and ordinary people stepping forward when it matters most, please take a moment to like this video. Share it with someone who needs hope, and subscribe to Kindness Corner. And tell us in the comments where you're watching from. Your support helps stories like this reach hearts that are quietly breaking. Marcus had mastered the art of surviving unnoticed. 3 years earlier, his wife had passed, leaving behind silence, grief, and a 6-year-old girl who still asked when mommy was coming home. Since then, life had become a loop of double shifts. Cheap meals and prayers whispered into the dark. Nights were spent hauling crates at a warehouse. Mornings were spent helping children onto school buses. His body ached constantly. His mind never rested. That evening, he brought his daughter Rowan to the old roadside diner, not for the food, but for the feeling. It was one of the few places where she laughed freely. The neon lights amazed her, and the waitress always added an extra cherry to her milkshake without charging. For Marcus, it was a rare moment of peace. Trouble didn't announce itself. 2 men sat at the counter, already deep into their drinks before sunset. Their laughter was loud, careless, edged with something ugly. When the young waitress accidentally dropped a tray, she apologized quickly. One man grabbed her wrist, too tight. The other blocked her escape, smiling. People noticed, and then they looked away. Phones became fascinating. Menace suddenly needed reading. Silence became easier than involvement. Marcus saw it all. His heart raced, but he stayed seated. He had a daughter. He had bills. One wrong move could collapse everything he'd built. He hoped it would end. It didn't. The waitress tried to pull free. Her voice cracked. Panic crept into her eyes. That's when Rowan slid from the booth. Her small fingers wrapped around her father's sleeve. She didn't understand danger. She didn't understand consequences. She only knew someone was being hurt. "Daddy," she said softly, "please help her." Something ancient rose inside Marcus, older than fear, stronger than logic. He stood. A chair screeched against the floor. One of the men turned and shoved him hard. Marcus stumbled but stayed upright. Laughter followed. Another shove. What happened next wasn't heroic. It wasn't clean. It was raw. Marcus moved on instinct, blocking a swing, using momentum, slamming one man into a stool. The other lost balance and crashed backward. In moments, both were down, not broken, just shocked. The diner fell silent. Marcus stepped back, hands shaking. He didn't feel proud. He felt terrified. Police arrived. Statements were taken. Witnesses finally spoke. Security footage told the truth. Marcus was released with a warning, but the weight on his chest didn't lift. That night, sleep never came. The next morning, he went to work expecting consequences. Instead, his supervisor called him into the office. Inside stood a man in a tailored suit, out of place among forklifts and concrete. Adrian Cross, CEO of the hospitality group that owned the diner. Adrian didn't accuse. He listened. He spoke of his childhood, of watching people turn away, of how rare courage was when no one was watching. The waitress, he explained, had been one paycheck from homelessness. That night could have destroyed her. Instead, it restored her faith. Marcus wasn't being punished. He was being offered a chance, a stable job, daytime hours, benefits, enough pay to finally breathe. Marcus thought of Rowan's voice. His eyes burned as he nodded. That evening, they returned to the diner. This time, they sat by the window. The waitress smiled, truly smiled. Rowan waved. Marcus held his daughter's hand, understanding that courage doesn't always roar. Sometimes it whispers through a child who believes her father can change the world. If this story touched your heart, please like, share, and stay connected with Kindness Corner. Before we end, comment one word that describes how this story made you feel. Marcus Hale never became famous, but on one ordinary night, in one forgotten diner, a quiet man chose courage, and lives were changed forever. Change didn't arrive with fireworks. It came quietly, like sunlight through blinds Marcus had kept closed for years. The new job felt unreal at first. No overnight shifts, no bone-deep exhaustion. For the first time since his wife's death, Marcus ate dinner with Rowan at a table instead of a steering wheel. But peace has a way of waking old wounds. Rowan began asking questions. "Daddy, were you scared?" Marcus paused. He wanted to lie, to say no. Instead, he said the truth. "Yes, but sometimes being scared means you're about to do something important." At school, Rowan drew pictures of heroes, not with capes, but with tired eyes and strong hands. Her teacher called Marcus in, confused and emotional. Word spread, not online, not publicly, but quietly, among waitresses, night workers, single parents. Marcus became someone people trusted. Adrian noticed. He asked Marcus to help redesign safety training, not as policy, but as human responsibility. And every time Marcus spoke, he thought of the diner, of silence, of a small voice that refused it. Months later, Marcus stood in a different diner, new lights, clean floors, busy tables. A waitress froze as a customer raised his voice. Before fear could settle, another customer stood, then another. The situation dissolved, not because of strength, but because people no longer felt alone. Marcus watched from a distance, heart heavy and full. That night, Rowan asked, "Daddy, will you always help?" Marcus knelt beside her bed, brushing hair from her face. "I'll try," he said, "and when I can't, I hope someone else will." Years later, Rowan would remember the night her father stood up, not because he was strong, but because he listened. Because courage, she learned, isn't born loud. It's taught quietly by example. And it keeps growing. Years passed quietly, just the way Marcus Hale preferred. Rowan grew taller, her questions sharper, her world wider. The diner became a memory. The warehouse years, a story told only when nights felt long. Life wasn't perfect, but it was steady. And for Marcus, that steadiness felt like a miracle he never stopped respecting. On a rainy afternoon, Rowan came home shaken. There had been an incident at school. A substitute teacher had yelled at a student, cornered him, voice raised, power misused. Most of the class stayed silent, not out of cruelty, but confusion, fear, the same kind Marcus once felt in that diner. Rowan hadn't stayed silent. She didn't shout. She didn't argue. She stood up and said, "Please stop. You're hurting him." The room froze. The teacher backed away. Administrators were called. The boy cried, not from fear anymore, but relief. That evening, Rowan told her father everything, her voice steady but her hands trembling. Marcus listened without interrupting, heart pounding, not with fear, but recognition. "You were scared," he said gently. "Yes," she whispered. He smiled, eyes burning. "So was I." The first time, they sat together in silence, rain tapping against the windows like soft applause. Later that night, Marcus found Rowan at her desk, writing something carefully. When she noticed him watching, she handed him the page. It was a promise. "If I see someone alone in the dark, I will not look away." Marcus folded the paper and held it to his chest. He finally understood. That night in the diner hadn't ended when the police left. It hadn't ended with a job offer or quiet gratitude. It ended here, in a child who had learned that courage doesn't belong to the fearless. It belongs to the ones who choose kindness, even when their voice shakes. Marcus turned off the light, standing in the doorway a moment longer. His promise had kept growing, and now it no longer belonged only to him.